Did you have to create a new thing in YouTube?
No. Well, it added it on, so.
Gotcha.
We'll find out actually.
Yeah, find out.
How that does.
Hey, Twitch says you're live.
Yeah, it just popped up Twitch. Oh, but it's got me playing. Oh, there it is. Well, that's weird. YouTube popped up as well, but Twitch has me on Hogwarts Legacy. Obviously. I'll go on Twitch and just fix everything. No, the game is wrong. It's weird. Oh, I know why. Because Star Citizen didn't pop up. It's okay. Just gonna fix that real quick. Edit. Okay. Done.
Hey, I'm seeing us on YouTube. Seeing us on Twitch.
Same.
By the way, could Twitch put longer commercials in front of streamers' content?
I think maybe. I think maybe they could. I think they're just afraid that people will get upset. It's so ridiculous how many they do, and the
shoot! Wait a minute. You put color key on my thing, so when I switch to my fleet, it's gonna still have that chroma key on it. Isn't it?
I can easily mute that and make that invisible.
Okay.
Fairly easily. I've got to click buttons. It's such a pain in my butt. No, we'll be able to do it.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and show our faces here.
Sure.
Guys, I changed a couple of things, so I've got to get Grim to walk me through. Grim gets to be my tech support this time. I've got to get him to walk me through how to control, because it's not controlling. So if I go right now to idle, it doesn't take me to our idle screen. Let me see. Let me do this. Oh, it is working now. Okay. Okay. You know what? Never mind. I'm an idiot. I'll shut my mouth. Ignore me. Right.
Yeah, I can totally ignore you.
We're gonna play. I'm just gonna play a little bit of music just in the back, very lightly. Mic check. How do I sound? How does Grim sound? How does everybody sound?
Check 1 2. Hope everyone is doing well.
And I'm going to bring up YouTube and
I've got them both up here. That's why people can see me looking from this way to this way to this way. It's because I have 3 screens, so my screens are spread out in front of me. So it's a wide swath.
Yeah. So over here are my chats. Over here is everything, and then So Grim, while we're talking, I am just going to real quick. Actually, no. Grim, you're fine. I just realized. I've got your fleet viewer. It's a different thing. So I don't have that with a chroma key. Only gotcha. This has the chroma key.
Gotcha.
We're safe. We're safe and sound, folks. Everything is good. I'm moving things and okay. Hey guys, welcome to episode 4. 4?
No, is it 4 or 3?
3? Episode this one. Fleetbuilders. I think it's 3. I think you're right. I think it's 3.
Yes. Yes. Sounds right.
Welcome to episode 3 of Fleetbuilders. This one, we're taking a different approach. I'm actually stupid amounts of excited for this one. Grim and I are taking a different approach on a few things. First, we're taking a different approach on how we count crew members. We decided that we were going to kind of have more of an open discussion about that, make it more conversational during, this, instead of it being a PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint, as it were. And also, we were going to approach it in a new way ourselves. Further, we're also going to be doing a big difference on this one. Grim is building a pirate fleet. His job is to pilfer my merchant fleet. We have decided that 100 people would be necessary to carry out this job. So Grim will have 100 people. I will also have 100 people. 20,000 SCU is the goal that we have to be able to carry. Now, 75% of that has to be able to be carried off by our fleet, which means we have to be able to carry
pirates,
at least 15,000 SCU. So he had to bring ships that were able to do that, as well as ships that would be able to load any of those if need be. So we have been building and building, and man, I'm excited.
It was a challenging one because we're coming at the fleet from two completely different angles. We always tend to do that, but this one, not only were we coming at it 2 different angles, but almost 2 different play styles, because a transport fleet is going to operate very different than how an attacking pirate fleet is going to operate. Right. So that was really challenging, where before we kind of talk about these fleets a lot before the show. This one, it's a total surprise. I have no idea what you did. You have no idea what I did. At all. But this is very much, pirates versus the Pilfered, you know what I mean? And what we're going to find out at the end, and I think we'll be able to do this just through discussion, but what we're going to find out at the end is what fleet we feel would have been successful in this, collision. Would it have been the pirates or the transport convoy? And while this is a versus episode, it's not a competition. I don't care if I win or lose, and it doesn't either. We're just going to take a very measured approach to which fleet would have come out on top. And we're, if you want to chime in on chat what you think once we go through these, it should be it'll be fun to just kind of get that back and forth from the audience.
Absolutely. Feel free to join in. Also, feel free to throw in our Discord. Sorry, I'm looking down because I'm all wrapped up. Feel free to throw in our Discord, your fleet that you might have. And we'll see, how it cracks up.
Yeah.
I say.
So parameters again, 100 crew members is the max. You have to be able to carry the transport fleet. We'll call it the transport fleet, right? Or the trading fleet.
Yeah.
It has to be able to carry at least 20,000 SCU on its trading mission. The pirate fleet must have at least one, or no more than 100 crew members, and must be able to carry away at least 75% of that total 20,000 SCU. So that'd be 15,000 SCU at a minimum. Why does that matter? Because that factors heavily into the type of ships that are done. I mean, there's other shows where people talk about fleets. This one, we really do like to put parameters in place so that, it makes it more challenging.
We like the challenge, and it's a thought thing for us. You know what I mean? It's a thought exercise. So if we weren't thinking, we wouldn't be doing it.
And because we're thinking of things like crew counts or like crew maximums, it forces you to consider things like the personnel overhead for a capital ship.
Right.
You can't just throw 5 Polarises in there because Polaris is a huge crew count. So you have to be strategic with what you choose. In addition to that, one of the parameters we like to put in these episodes sometimes is distance, because that makes a big deal, especially when you consider small ships can't fly very far distance. So if you're going from Pyro to Nyx, does that mean you now need to bring carriers or whatnot? So I think we decided on this one. And Ender, I believe I'm seeing your background.
Oh, you are?
Your web browser.
Are you?
But
what?
I believe we are.
Oh, you are. You are.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry. But we are.
I'll stop sharing that one.
I believe this distance that we're considering here for this operation is that the transport fleet. No, and that was my fault. Ender, ignore me there. You can stream or share if you want.
Right.
But our distance we're talking about is something more in the neighborhood of a short distance haul. Maybe, are we thinking just like Stanton to a neighboring system like Pyro, or is this?
I would say we would be coming pretty much
because 20,000 SCUs.
It's a lot. I was thinking that we would be coming from like the earliest place in Pyro that you can come to. So not a far drive. You're able to get pretty easily to fuel. You're able to get pretty easily. I didn't want to make it too difficult. That's for a future episode that I've got planned. But for this one, I wanted to make it kind of simplified because we're throwing a few wrenches into our stable of things that we normally do. So,
right.
And I was bringing my browser up for something and I forget what now. What was it? Oh, a coin flip. That's right.
Cool.
Oh, and Grim and I are doing something else new. Bingo, are you here? Bingo, are you in the chat? Got to give it that 15-second lead time there.
I forget, Ender, what number we're supposed to be giving him.
We were going to have a number of people that we held back to, and actually we could just say it out loud now. If we say our numbers out loud, we'll be able to talk through it. Held back for boarding parties and boarding defense.
Right.
And how we were going to lay those out. So we can send that to Bingo if you want, or we can say them out loud. I'm pretty much okay with anything here.
You know what? We could, you know what? Let's just go as we go. As you're describing your fleet, just name your people. My fleet is actually saved as a file, so I can't change mine anyway.
No, that's fine.
So we're good.
Let's do it. Yeah, mine's
and the who comes out on top won't rest fully on the boarding party anyway, because boarding party could fail, but you could still have all your cargo via other means. So
Grim thought of it, and I was like, "Ooh, I didn't even think about holding people back." So I'm glad you mentioned it, because I would have held zero back, and boarding parties would have been a bad day in Baghdad for me. So
all right,
I'm gonna flip a coin.
I think we should. Here's the thing. I know you're gonna flip a coin. I almost feel like, though, Ender, we should discuss the transport. We need to show the target first here.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that's important is
you're right.
Setting up the pirate fleet when we don't know what their ultimate goal is seems a little lopsided.
Yep.
So
let's do it. Let's do that. So I will go first. Let me bring up. Okay. I got stuff everywhere. Give me a moment. Let me close you. I don't know.
I'm excited to see this. Very excited.
I'm excited to show it. Now, mine is not saved as a file.
Thanks for joining us tonight, both in Twitch and YouTube. I see we've got some folks over in YouTube, Afgart, AMD 300, Sunny Boy, and stuff like that. I see some questions being posted. We'll probably loop back around to some questions when we get to the end of this. We're going to kind of launch into Fleet Builders as is for the moment, but appreciate you all joining us.
I can quickly answer AMD's question. The new Scorpius is whatever. The A1 and C1 and E1, I'm exceedingly excited about. All right, so on to my fleet. Let me see. Close our camps. Close the idle. Bring up Ender. There we go. Okay. Feel free to math along with me. So I'm going to start here with my work horses. Okay. So I've grabbed 12 people in my Galaxy refinery version. Now, I don't know how many refinery workers this is going to hold. So I assumed 5 total refinery workers. That's people bringing things in. That's people working the various refineries. So I'm figuring on 5.
Okay.
2 prospectors will be bringing up our mining. And then the raft will be carrying items from both here and from whatever planet they're near where they might be buying items, because it's 20,000 SCU. It's a shit ton. They're not going to just want to sit there for how many ever hours. Okay. So that's my refinery fleet. Now, with that fleet are 3 very special ships. First, we've got a F7R Hornet, so the tracker version. Okay, so this is for radar. They're pinging the radars out constantly. Second, they have an F7M, or correction, F7A, so the updated F7. Obviously, the F7, the guns are slaved to our pilot, so it's just the single pilot. Not as safe. Now, you could do 2 guns with that, and I feel like maybe you'd be a little better protected, but I decided not to. And finally, our Vanguard Sentinel. And this guy, his whole job is electronic warfare, right? So the hope is that he is masking the signature of this portion of the fleet. Okay. Now I'm going to go on to our people carrying the whatchamacallit.
So this first element here you described is a refinery fleet that's kind of going along with this trading fleet, creating commodities and stuff as they're traveling.
Yes.
By refining operations. So they're adding to that overall SEU transport amount. Okay.
Correct. So, and in 2 ways, you've got the raft carrying from the Galaxy to the actual storage, and the raft carrying from whatever area is trading to the storage. Okay. Now, I went 3 storages on this, and I did it because I wanted a little bit of defense with my storage, but I also wanted to split my storage up. So the way I did it is, first I went with obviously the Hold D. Okay. It's a cargo ship. Now it showed, I think 1 to 2, I think, or 1 to 4. I could be wrong.
I think it's 4.
I went 6.
Yeah.
So I got, actually I went 8. I apologize. Oh, did I miss? Yep, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. I've got to adjust. I have to adjust. It's okay.
All good.
Just on the fly.
And good thing to know is that the Hull D is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20,000 plus a couple hundred, I believe, SCU. So technically, the Hull D here could carry the entire convoy's worth of cargo. Sounds like through things like the, with some of these other ships you haven't even got to yet, it sounds like you have some redundancy.
A little bit of redundancy in there.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've gone 2 engineers. Engineers are important on these big ships, but I figure the section that he's engineering is this front section here. And not so much with the back. So 2 should be able to cover that. Now, I could be wrong, but I still feel like 2 will cover that back section. You just keep 1 engineer in the back and 1 up front, and they're running, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I went with it.
You have 4 turrets. So I've got my 4 turret gunners, and then I always go pilot and navigator on the larger ships, always 1 and 1, because that navigator can be a redundancy for an engineer if he needs to, or a turret if he needs to,
and radar
or do that scanning and radar. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's 8. And I'll add everything up before the end here. Second, I went with the Banu Merchantman.
And real quick on your Hull D, is your Hull D, is that your primary?
This will be where I would say, let's see, 80% maybe, if I did my math right, of my stuff is going to be. It's okay. I mean, you can't. I would have to go 2 Hull Ds, you know what I mean, to really split it and be good about splitting it, or just a lot of little merchantmen.
Right.
So second, I went with a merchantman. Now he's going to be cargo carrying, but he's also defense, right? So I've got 3 engineers for this big beastie because there's a lot of space to cover, and I feel like you need a major engineer and then 2 more engineers to run. You've got 7 total turrets and a pilot and a navigator on that. Did I miss anything with that? The point defense is automatic.
So 3 engineers sounds accurate. 7.
So I'm going to bring up the, where's my.
We don't totally know what the
We don't. And I had to kind of go a little bit off of what we have for RSI and for the other websites now.
But you could easily, even if you cut down on some of those turret people, they could easily play the role. I mean, we know we got the two big dual turrets up front and the big conning tower turret, and then there's the point defense turrets. But you could easily put some of those turret operators if you're over there. I really do think, and you'll see this on a number of my ships, I'll have a pilot, and then I'll have someone dedicated to radar and scanning, because that's going to be key.
Sure.
And then sometimes I'll have a commander role. You kind of put navigator. I think it's sort of the same thing. My commander role was sort of my overflow. He or she could be the logistics person. And what I mean by that is when we're operating a big ship like this, sometimes you're going to need someone in the ship to start telling people what to do. So they're not all just friends. You're going to need your raid leader, the raid leader being the person who runs the operations on the ship. Call them whatever you want, pirate captain, commander, whatever you know.
So on, and maybe I'm wrong. Somebody help me out with this. On RSI's site, and I open this port. It's different. On RSI's site, it lists, I believe, 5 total.
And that's pre-merchantman, growing.
Now on the wiki, because I went to multiple sources to make sure I was getting just as much information as I could. On the wiki, it labels 7. It lists a total of 7. So let's see. Yeah, see 5. Just not sure. Yeah. I'm going to stick with the 7 on this.
I think you're pretty safe with that. I mean, one of those people could be down in the cargo hold managing that area. You could have someone managing the hangar operations. I mean, you could go a lot of places.
Exactly. So that's my Banu Merchantman. Now the Banu has a total of course, that's the one that I have to go. Sorry, the BMM, you can't go into the specs page on it. So I had to go 2,880 SCU. It's going to carry max capacity. Okay. So it's carrying 2,880. We'll round down to 2,800 for that SCU. Now also I brought in the Kraken because you always release the Kraken when you can.
You always,
I did the Kraken because I wanted a place for my guys to also be able to kind of land and refuel and rearm and refit, where they didn't have to go back to civilization, especially like the mole or the prospectors. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went with the Kraken, and secondary was obviously defense is really good on the Kraken. Now I did a total of 15 people for the Kraken, 5 turret gunners, 4 engineers, and 2 navigators. Correction, 9 turret gunners. Sorry. Is that accurate? I think it's got that many turrets.
5, 6, 7. So there's a maximum of 7 turrets on the Kraken.
Okay. So I'm actually going to put, then I'm going to change that number to 7.
Yeah.
And that'll be 13.
Which will give you your 2 back for what you were over. Yeah. So your 100 count number should still be accurate.
All right. Well, look at me go.
Look at that.
Evening it out in the end. So that went a total of 13. Obviously, the Kraken has
3,700 some odd SCU.
So I went 3,700 on that. So those obviously are only adding up to about 55-ish, maybe 6,000 ish, if my math is correct. 22, 37, 27, right?
Yeah, actually, I think you're up to more like 6,500 SCU.
Yeah.
Give or take.
So I was
800 plus 3,700, somewhere around there.
So I was able to carry about 25% of my SCU just in those alone. Now, I didn't want to leave them undefended. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing is bringing along some help. First and foremost, I've got 4 Ares and 2 Ares Ions, 2 Ares Infernos. Now, They're going to be stationed on the corners of defense here. Okay, I'm not going to do this prettily because I just can't. So they're going to be kind of corner. Really? Okay, there we go. Corner defense, right?
Yeah.
And then I've got how many did I end up with? 2, 4, 5 F7s, additional F7s. Total is 6. Okay. Now, 4 of those are going to be going with this group. Okay. And I'm going to have 2 of the Sentinels going with this group as well. The reason those 2 Sentinels are going to be going is, again, I wanted them to kind of mask the signatures, right? Muddle up everything. Make sure they're not 100% sure where that hole is. So maybe they end up going after the wrong ship initially, or towards the wrong ship. Obviously, through silhouette and profile, you're going to see it. But initially, I'm hoping, it pulls that weight off a little bit. And then finally, I have my last little group here. Okay. An F7R, an F7 Hornet, and then a Vanguard Sentinel. The Sentinel's job for this one, and a Mercury Star Runner. Okay. Sentinel's entire job for this one is to literally hide that Star Runner. That Star Runner is going to be scanning and then hopefully hacking. We don't know quite how it's going to work, but this is part of how I'm hoping this works. I'm hoping that they are able to hack the system and,
from my knowledge,
mask the location.
I think a lot of that is actually based off computers that the ship can hold, and the Star Runner happens to be one of the ships that can hold the most. It's got a high level computer bank store thing. So we might be a bit off on that, maybe a little speculation. But if I was to put my weight into a ship that had a lot of computing power in order to do hacking and spoofing and shit like that, it would probably be the Star Runner or the Herald or something like that. I'm
hoping that it's able to do that, and I'm hoping that my dog is telling me go to bed, but get over it. She just rolled. Sorry. I'm hoping that it's able to do that, and I'm hoping that it's able to either pull data, right, which you can also trade, or mask the location of these guys just a little bit. Maybe throw off sensors or any kind of stuff that will give a final help. Now, I held back 25 total boarding crew. Okay. I would put, I got to math this. Hold on. So,
and Ender, while you're mathing that real quick, I'm going to jump in. Unfortunately, I forgot one key aspect of Restream. It's to run a separate thing called Restream Chat that actually joins all the chats together. So I don't believe Twitch and YouTube, I don't believe you guys are all seeing each other's chats, which is okay.
Not right now.
This is just kind of our first episode of doing this, but I want to thank everyone in Twitch and YouTube for showing up tonight. I think Jaybird over in YouTube said this is epic. I love Fleet viewers, so appreciate that, and thanks everyone for hanging out with us.
So 25 total. I would put a majority of my guys, obviously, on, or as many as I can. I would figure 7 is going to be the max I'm going to be able to fit, and comfortably carry on my hold D. Okay. So I'm putting 7 total on the hold. I'm putting, let's see. Yeah.
7 total on the hull, correct?
Correct. 7 total boarding repellers on the hold D. I'd like to put 10, but I just don't think I'm going to get away with it. I'm going to put 8 on the Merchantman, and the final 10 are going to go on the Kraken. I feel like that would give them enough room to maneuver around, and it's covering enough area where they might be able to repel those people well enough. In total, so let's see, I'm just going to math it while we're on real quick. 100 in total at the beginning.
CVMXO on YouTube chat. So what's up, V? Hope you're doing well.
Total lack of Anvil Hawks. Well,
I believe you're muted.
Oh, yep, you're right. I muted myself because I'm an idiot. All right, I'm going to do a different minus symbol here because.
And I'll have one follow-up question once you get done with your math.
Absolutely. 6 for the MSR, 2, 3, 4, 5 for his escorts. That brings me down to 89. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So 12 total in fleet escort, brings me down to 77. All right, 12. On the BMM. Let's see. 8 on there. 13 there on the Kraken. 12 on my refinery. Minus, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Brings me down to 24. Mathed it wrong. Where did I math it wrong?
And not that you have to hit 100 exactly. We just can't go over.
Okay. Yeah. So I would actually have to do 9 boarding party on the, or boarding repellers on the Kraken. So a total of 24 repelling. I'd keep everything else the same. And that's my squadron pretty much right there.
Okay, so let me ask you
Go ahead.
2 follow-up questions. It looks like for each of your big players here, your BMM, your Huldie, and your Kraken, you're roughly getting about roughly getting somewhere between 2 and 4 protection wingmen per vessel. Obviously, there could be some float between there.
Sure.
But on average, it looks like each ship is surrounded by, well, maybe even more. Somewhere, some more, like in the Huldie, it looks like you got 2. In the BMM, you got 4. But that could shift a little bit. But on average, let's say 2 to 4 ships protecting one of those big ships at any given time, roughly.
If I'm the guy that's running my fleet, right? Oh, Soul Citizen with a raid. Thank you. And hello, guys.
Soul, appreciate it.
We're here. We're just
Soul Citizens
going through my fleet before Grim goes through his. And he's asked the question of how many people are protecting. Now, if I'm controlling this fleet, I'm going to pull most of my protection down and leave just a few protectors for that BMM and that Kraken. They've got so much firepower. So I'd probably leave like an Inferno and an Ion with the BMM and with the Kraken, and then everything else is kind of there with the whole D or going out and doing their thing. Okay.
Next question. I think this is key to knowing what the target is. You've talked about, we know the BMM has a cargo capacity of around 2,800 SCU, Kraken somewhere like 3,700 SCU. How much are those 2 ships, the Kraken and BMM, are they carrying max cargo? And the reason I ask that is how much cargo is on the hull D specifically? Rounded to the nearest 100.
I would say
because if you had the Kraken and BMM totally full, then that mean, and let's say you're only carrying around 20,000 SCU. If you had those totally full, that means the hull D is carrying somewhere around 13,800 SCU,
which is about what they would be carrying. Yeah.
Okay.
So 3,700. I'm going to say 3,700. We could pinch numbers, but 3,700 for the Kraken, and then the BMM Banner Merchantman. How much does it have for SCU? 2,880. So I'm going to say 2,800 there. 6,500. So 100. Yeah, we're leaving about 13.5 for that whole D.
Thank you, everybody, for the follows.
Yeah, so
Ender's Twitch channel from Soul. Thank you so much. We will be on camera in just a little bit. We're going through fleets, and we'll just to kind of give everyone a heads up. This is a versus fleet build. Ender's building this transport trading fleet, and I, Grim, am building a pirate fleet. And we're going to kind of see which fleet comes out on top. We're kind of going through the numbers right now.
Just pointing out to
so Ender, where'd you end up on your whole D?
Total on the whole D.
Might be muted again.
Oh, I did. You're right. 13.5. I apologize.
So 13.5
on the whole D.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I had to let. Oh man, is it Z? can I just call you Z? They said no, Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
They said, it's there.
Cool. All right. So that's all good information.
So 13.5 total. It will require, I wanted to require you to take down 2 ships to make it a little more difficult.
Smart. I mean, I can tell you right now what's smart, and this is why I wanted to lock down those numbers.
Yeah.
Is specifically because your whole D has been pulled down to 13,500 means it's not quite carrying 75%.
Exactly.
So no single ship is a solo target at this stage, which is smart. Very smart.
I wanted to, if I'm going to move cargo, this is how I would do it. Now, we've restricted to 100 people. I do feel like if I'm lacking anywhere, it's my boarding party. I maybe could have, and it's possible that you could do less protecting outside and take that fight to the ground and win with overwhelming numbers, but you don't want to risk that. You never want to risk that.
And I know you did 9 boarding on the Kraken. How many did you do on the BMM?
So the BMM has, forgive me, I've got to math that real quick.
So it was 7 on the hull D, 9 on the Kraken.
So 7 plus 9. And that would be a total of 9 on the BMM.
9 on the BMM. Okay. Okay, good to know. Okay.
I don't know, Rand Print. I think the Galaxy is right where it needs to be. I love its size. I got to be honest. I love its size. Everybody, thank you. Soul Citizen, I hope your stream was wonderful. Thank you for the raid. Guys, thank you for the follows. Feel free to follow me. You can also follow Grim. You'll see his stuff over there. Thank you for shouting out Ginger. You'll find Grim over there at Twitch TV _Starjump_Grim or our YouTube channel. Grim streams to both YouTube and his stream pretty regularly. I stream to our YouTube as well when we're doing Fleet Builders because, man, while I love editing stuff, this is makes it easier. So much easier.
By the way, Jay Birdmax on YouTube asked, how much does the BMM hold again? Roughly around 2,800 SCU.
Yeah, 2,880. I don't know if that's been bumped up or not, but that's what
that's the last we know.
Yeah, that's the information we're going off of.
So, cool.
Yeah. So, this is my fleet. I'm going to take us back to our cams. Meow. Did I do it right?
Cool. No, I mean, I thought it's definitely a different approach than I thought you were going to take on the fleet. I will admit that some of the decisions you made will make my job a little harder than what I initially thought. However, I think my approach still has a good chance of having
success,
some real effectiveness.
That's good.
Just to remind everyone again, for those just joining, we're doing a versus fleet build for this episode. Ender there's a couple parameters. We need to have no more than 100 crew members on both of these fleets. Ender's is a trade shipping kind of fleet.
Yep.
Carrying at least 20,000 SCU of cargo. And I am operating a pirate fleet. And my goal with no more than 100 crew members is to be able to destroy the trading fleet and get away with at least 75% of that trading vessel's haul. So we're talking about 15,000 SCU is what I need to be able to pull away from the situation. So, okay. I thought your fleet was very well rounded, though. The amount of people you have on boarding protection is going to be a serious challenge for me personally. And the way the SCU is split up against the hull D, the Kraken, and the BMM is also going to be very challenging. It means I have to spread myself thin in some areas, and some of the boarding party restrictions I have ways I think of getting around, and some I don't, and we'll go through those.
Sweet. Well, let's go through it. Right.
You may have to take off my green screen effect when we switch.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
So let me know when you want to switch.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Bam.
All right. We are switched over. All right. Does everything look all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. The green screen effect, not on this one. So we got lucky on that.
Cool. All right. So obviously, my goal was to, be able to disable your fleet. We just went through that. When I thought about this, I really thought about it as because I'm the attacking, fleet. I need to have some sort of plan going into this. I can't just willy nilly attack you, especially when I don't know how things are broken up, where all the cargo is, et cetera, et cetera. So when I started thinking about this, I started thinking about it and how do I break this out in a way where I can have sort of a multi pronged, you know, attack in different phases to maximize the ship the ship choices I have within each phase to their highest level, right? So essentially what I did was I broke my attack strategy down into four phases: phase one, phase two, all the way to phase four. um, Now, one thing I think that is important for everyone to know before I get into this is that um, just because phase one comes out and then phase two starts, phase one's job doesn't stop. They're still doing their job throughout the entire engagement. It's just that I've separated the ships into those phases for more of an organized attack. Um, so they'll have overlapping operational kind of timetables, so to speak. Okay. As phase one is engaging, phase two will also begin moving towards their goals. Phase one is still going forward as well. Um, all right. So let's start with phase one. Ender, feel free to ask any questions as we go. My phase one consists of three ships with a total crew requirement of 23. That's going to be Polaris, has a crew of 13 in it, which is when I broke the crew down, this is where I felt like you could operate a Polaris in a competent way. We have one pilot, one commander, which is playing that overflow role, radar scanner operator, three engineers, six turret operators, and one torpedo operator. From the best we can gather, it does look like the torpedo room can be operated by a single person because all four torpedo tubes can be fired and loaded by a one person via console. However, if I needed some overflow there, the commander could go down and play that role. Um, that Polaris will carry this Scorpius. Now, this was another thing I was thinking about is I want all my ships to be able to be carried long range. As the pirate vessel, I'm going to be having to move to intercept you, and I can't be slowed down by a slow fighter. So all my ships are actually can be carried, all my small ships. So the Scorpius will be within the Polaris, has a crew of two, one pilot, one turret. Um, Last but not least, we have the Nautilus, has a high crew count of 8, one pilot, one commander, two engineers, two mine operators, and two turret operators. Okay. Um, Now that's a little lean on the turret. I could have went a little heavier on the turret operators on the Nautilus. But the reason I didn't is because the Nautilus's primary role in this phase will not be to engage directly. It's going to be kind of setting a trap, and that's what phase one here is all about. With the Polaris, we know the Polaris is one of the very few ships with a capital size radar, and should be able to scan out one of the ships that can scan out the farthest. And so its goal is to scan, locate the trading fleet. And the Nautilus, once it's located, the Nautilus will then spring a trap. Okay, so the trap is going to be essentially a minefield whose and the minefield's goal is not to destroy the fleet but to slow the fleet down. So it'll be a pretty wide minefield, so there'll be a lot of space in between mines, and the reason for that is that we're not targeting the fighters, we're targeting the larger ships, the Hull D, the Kraken and stuff. And our goal with these mines is to slow those big ships down, because if the big ships slow down, they all need to slow down, right? So that's what we're
Yep.
targeting here with the Nautilus. And again, it's not to destroy, it's to make the fleet slow, not even to come to a full stop, just slow down for a minute. Maybe they got to do some repairs and whatnot. But
I don't like that you're funneling me already.
But the Nautilus, and everyone that knows me knows I love the Nautilus.
Mm-hmm.
The Nautilus is the honey, right? And it's trying to trap the trading fleet. The Polaris, once we slow and trap that fleet, the Polaris will use its torpedoes to fire at the engines of some of those bigger ships, Kraken, Hull D, or whatever, in order to disable them. So first we slow them down, make them vulnerable. Next, we hit them with size 10 torps to disable engines and require engineers to get to work. Okay, that's phase one. Next, we move to phase two. Now, this is my primary attack in QED phase. It requires a total crew requirement of 25 and has 8 people, an 8-person boarding party. Now, that seems small, but I don't want you to get distracted by the small number yet because there's a counter to this. Um, this phase two group, once the trading fleet has been slowed down and is under repairs, I see someone in chat said, so the Nautilus will be like a spider wire ship. Yeah, exactly. So in comes phase two. Now remember, all these ships can travel on the Kraken. I did measurements. The Mantis, Hurricane, and Legionnaire can actually fit on these top 4 pads if you rotate them along the line, the longer axis of the pad. They actually do fit. And the 2 Ares could be squeezed on here along with the Apollo. Now, so this Kraken, along with all of its turrets, 14-person crew, 1 pilot, 1 commander, 1 air boss, 1 radar scanning, 3 engineers, and 7 turrets. Okay, so there's my 14 for the Kraken. We have 2 Ares Infernos. I specifically went Infernos because I wanted the ballistic damage to eat through shields. That's what I'm hoping. And Apollo medevac, obviously, for medical duties because I'm attacking fleet. I'm obviously going to probably take some injuries. We have a Hurricane for just fighter protection. So once the transport fleet has been slowed down by the minefield and disabled by the Polaris, the Mantis will be there to constantly be a pain in the ass and doing its quantum enforcement drive stuff. Okay, it's not necessarily meant to totally prevent things from moving, but but again, it's more prolonging the honey because once the minefield's been triggered, it's not going to really be useful anymore. You know what I mean? Whatever mines were attracted to the transport fleet now are going to be null and void after they've done their work. So the Mantis is there to kind of keep that slowing going, right? The Legionnaire will be carrying the boarding party. It's got a crew of 2, 1 pilot and 1 for hacking, and a boarding party of 8. Okay, those 8 individuals will be targeting whatever ship needs to be targeted. We're going to get back to that in a minute because I wrote down your boarding numbers. So that's my primary attack in QED. Now, while this phase 2 is happening, phase 1 is still doing their business. The Scorpius is out there adding to the attack. The Nautilus is able to engage dual size 7s and other turrets. Maybe it can start deploying sentry mines or whatever. The Polaris still, remember, carries 24 size 10 torps, so it can still be a pretty massive threat. And with the Polaris redesign we've seen, it looks like this thing is bristling with size 5 or size 6 turrets. So it's still a very deadly ship.
This is a dangerous ship already.
Yeah. And that's phase 1 and 2. Now we're getting to phase 3, which is we're really upping the attack potential. Okay, so phase 3 is yet another Kraken. I call this phase the AO control and tractor team. So this is our area of operation control and lockdown team and the tractor team. The tractor team is only part of this phase because they needed a lift, okay? And that's down here. We'll get to them. So we have another Kraken, same crew count, 14, 1 pilot, 1 commander, 1 air boss, 1 radar scanning, 3 engineers, and 7 turret operators. We'll have 2 Buccaneers down in the internal hangar bays of the Kraken. Don't forget, those are there. They reside under these 4 pads. And then 4 arrows on top of here, okay? Each one of these fighters has only 1 person in it. Total crew, by the way, for phase 3 is 28, okay? So as soon as the phase 3 comes in, their attackers are joining phase 2's attackers, the Ares and the Hurricanes and the Scorpius from phase 1. They're all joined. So now the attack ships, the combat ships have now grown pretty heavily, you know, just in terms of fighters. We have Scorpius, we have a Hurricane, we have 2 Ares, we have 2 Buccaneers, 4 arrows, in addition to all the turrets on our big ships, right? Now, phase 3 will also bring in our 4 SRV tractor teams. Now, these are usually an SRV is labeled as a crew of 1. However, I put a crew of 2 on all these, and the reason being is that the pilot's going to constantly be moving these ships around with a tractor operator. Under normal circumstances, I think an SRV could operate with 1 person because you're under no threat. You're just slowly moving cargo from A to B to C. In this situation, these ships are these are our weasels. They're stealing the bird eggs here. You know what I mean? So they've got to be fast, quick, maneuverable. Their goal is to get as much cargo offloaded as quickly as possible. So that's why there's an additional person. Now, next we go to our phase 4, which is our transport team and protection. Total crew required 16. Total cargo carrying capacity is at 21,312 SCU. They're made up by a Caterpillar with a crew of 5, 1 pilot, 1 tractor operator, because don't forget the Caterpillar has a tractor beam on this wing, 2 engineers, and 1 logistics. Okay, and we'll get to the logistics on this guy here in a minute. We have a hull D with a crew of 5, 1 pilot, 1 commander, 2 engineers. Did I not add? So it looks like I have an extra person there. Yeah, I do have an extra person. Okay, that's fine. I'll keep him in my back pocket for a minute. And then we have a Perseus, crew of 6, 1 pilot, 1 radar scanning, 2 turrets, and 2 engineers. Okay. Now let me zoom out here. So let's look at this drawn out here. So this is the 4 phase kind of attack situation.
Can I just take half a second here to point out Grim comes in with this absolutely beautiful layout here, and I just schmucked it together like an asshole. I feel like I did you a disservice on this.
But that's what's great. No, that's what's great is that not only do we approach these fleets different from a ship makeup standpoint, but our entire way we visualize this is different. And again, this is why people hear me talk about the future Star Jump project, this project called Fleet Command that Ender knows about. Fleet Command will take all this shit to a whole other level. This is why we're excited about it.
Whole new level. It's going to be so amazing. Yes. You're right. It's engineer versus artist. So you're 100% right on that. All right, continue, Grim.
No problem. So again, you're looking at it from a top-down view here. All of my small ships can be carried by larger ships, so we're extremely long range. We're never going to be slowed down by our slowest ship. Okay.
Yeah.
And I tried to look at that as a vulnerability here with my phase 1 group, and that's the vulnerability they're exploiting. They're trying to use mines to slow down the big ships, forcing everyone else to slow down with you.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the boarding party situation here. Now, I only have a boarding party of 8.
Now, I'm actually going to point something out, and you let me know. Because I've been mathing along here.
Okay. And I might be wrong on some numbers. I'll make some corrections if need be.
You have 8 people that you can put into another boarding party. I am not happy to be able to say that.
So was it 23 plus 25 plus 8 because of the boarding party there?
They're not included in that 25 number. Okay.
Plus 16.
Okay. I thought they were.
100 exactly. Yep. So yes, that confused me multiple times. So this 25 here, this total crew required 25. That's just to fly the ship.
Plus the 8 boarding party. I see that, times. And I looked at that earlier, and I don't know. I'm an asshole.
Now, we know I have 1 leftover person, right, from down here.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're okay with it.
Yeah,
I'm going to make a simple change here. We're going to go. Oh, wait, no, that's correct. Where was I wrong? Oh, I was wrong here. Okay, so we'll set this to 4. So we have 1 left over person.
Yep.
Now I won't throw them in the boarding party because I think that would be cheating a little bit. We talked about locking in our boarding party numbers, so that's fine. I still have 1 more person I could put somewhere, and I may think about that. Although I don't think that's going to really affect the outcome here. So
no, you've got this pretty locked down.
So the boarding party.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's where I'm going. Your hull D, once I see how much cargo is on it from an external viewpoint, because it carries its cargo on the external side, I'm immediately going to make that my primary target. Okay. Yeah. And what I'm going to do there is not only is it going to be disabled, but this Perseus is going to pull up alongside it, lock it down along with fighters, harassing all the other ships. The Perseus will keep the hull D locked down. I don't need a boarding party for the hull D. All I need is a swarm of these SRVs yanking cargo off.
Exactly.
And And then specifically the reason I used a whole D as well is because I want that grav plating. I want these SRVs to literally take a box from yours, throw a box on here, and just start filtering it.
So here's the really shitty part for me.
Yeah.
The moment, and it would probably be one of my Hornets, the moment we notice that there is definitely a Nautilus out there, and the other ship out there, all four of my Ares are going for that. And a decent amount of Hornets. A lot would be pulled off to focus on that, and it would be what kills my fleet. It would be that kind of needle that pops that bubble.
Well, and I know a lot of times me and you start looking at our own strengths and weaknesses after we've seen both fleets, and I'm sure we'll definitely get there because my fleet has a weakness and it's in phase 4.
Yeah.
So these SRVs are constantly pulling cargo and putting it on this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's go back to my boarding party for a minute.
Yep.
Now, I saw someone in chat said if they were in your position, they would just try very hard to take out my single boarding ship. And that would be smart, except there's still something you got to remember. In looking at Ender's fleet, one of his ships carrying 3,700 SCU of cargo. Okay, so let's pause for a minute. Let's hypothesize that I pull all the cargo off your hull D, okay, and put it on my hull D.
Yep.
That's going to be 13,500 SCU. All I need is another 1,500 SCU to hit that mark.
Yep.
So I would not target the BMM at all in order to try to, I mean, I would disable it, but I wouldn't try to take any cargo off of it because the cargo is internal. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get to.
Yep.
The entry points in the BMM, I think, make it a difficult target to breach. I would go after the Kraken, and here's why. The Kraken, as we all know, and I say this as a Kraken owner, it's got a big giant question mark on it in that, you know, we don't, and CIG said there's no real way to defend people just landing on the decks. So in a way, any of my ships, whether it's the Scorpius, the Ares, the Hurricane, instantly, or any of these Arrows or Buccaneers, they all become boarding ships for the Kraken, because the Kraken, you do not need to dock with it. You can just land your ship on it and then hit the main door. The Kraken has a door right here. You can see these little crosshatch lines on the Kraken. Those lead to a door. Doors right here. Okay. So I would send my Legionnaire to the Kraken. The Legionnaire could either breach one of the docking collars on both sides, or just land on the deck along maybe with another ship or two. Either way, land on the Kraken. The only thing they got to do is get the bottom cargo elevator to drop. So they need to get in, fight their way to the cargo bay, get down, and then drop that, and get at least 1,500 out. Now, there's only 8 boarding partners, which is less than your Kraken. You had a
9 total.
9.
Yep.
So it's close to being even, but let's give the Kraken boarding defense party the upper hand on that. So another way I could go about this is to have my Legionnaire target the hull for boarding to make transition of all that cargo easier. At that point, my goal would to just be to attempt to destroy the Kraken and with overwhelming firepower, thinking from the Polaris. And then once the as we've seen with or with death and persistence, when a ship blows up, its cargo gets spit out. But it's not all of its cargo, though. But remember, CIG said it won't spit out 3,700 SCU. It's going to spit out like 40% of it.
40%. But that's
all I need is
more than enough. Yep. It's SCU. More than enough.
So that's kind of counter there. Now, it's not a perfect solution, but it is what it is. And I would use the Caterpillar to snag that cargo, because the Caterpillar can just open its side doors, and this guy with the tractor can scoop it in.
Tractor it in.
It doesn't need the SRVs or anything. The Caterpillar is kind of an interesting cargo ship too, and a lot of people don't think about this because it kind of has a little bit of an SRV style built right into it. Which is with the way the side doors open on the ship and the way you can scoop it in with the tractor. I think it's, so again, that's my layout. I do know of some weaknesses in this build. but interested in hearing your points on this.
So here's what I would say. You could actually defeat that Kraken. The hull itself, right? You're able to pull everything off of that ship pretty quickly, right? You've got a lockdown with quantum now. Fighters might be able to take that out, but here's the major thing that you're able to do, right? If you take that boarding party and you board through one of the docking collars, right, with the Legionnaire, and then you land 4 or 5 ships on the actual deck and move people to that door, you're forcing me to split, right?
You could overwhelm, yeah.
And you could definitely overwhelm that group.
I'll add another thing about this, and this is not only a weakness for your fleet, it's a weakness for my fleet. The Kraken has a huge vulnerability on its underneath side. It actually doesn't have any turrets on its bottom side.
Yeah.
I think it might have one. I've seen them put a mount there in some videos, but there's no gun there. That could change when it goes into production.
Yeah.
But the Kraken really doesn't have a lot of protection underneath.
No, it doesn't.
So, so a Legionnaire or something could come from below. That's also, now I'll say that as also a vulnerability for me.
It is.
I'm operating 2 Krakens.
Absolutely. But honestly, looking at your fleet, you've set your fleet up so well. You know, I focused a lot on that e-warfare and hoping that e-warfare can help. And it could end up masking. You could end up going after the wrong target at first. My fleet would be split a little bit. It wouldn't be so, especially once we know we've got enemies, it's spread out, but that time that it needs, that could be the difference between, you know, a ship taking out the Mantis or 2 ships being able to take out the Mantis. It just depends on how well things work out and quantuming out. I like your fleet build up quite a bit because it's a very good, let's get in, get out. It's obviously a well-prepared group. Get in, get out, and you know what you're doing with it. You did a phenomenal job of building this up.
Well, I'll say, let's talk about, I appreciate that. Let's talk about the combat scenario here. This fleet, from a fighter perspective, has a weaker position than your fleet. You have not only more fighters, but better fighters, technically. And this is why I wanted to make sure that these phases didn't get considered, thought of as when phase 3 starts, phase 2 ends. The Polaris, the idea behind the Polaris specifically in this fleet makeup is not only to disable those big ships, but is to truly act as a, you know, F around and find out ship.
Right.
Meaning that the lack of punch that the fighter kind of wing has within this fleet, the Polaris is supposed to say, hey, you know, all I have to do is launch a bunch of torps at you. It's going to go bad. Now, we may not get our cargo.
But
so
but you're done when I start.
So this fleet does rely, and I think that's the case a little bit with the Perseus too, but I think this fleet relies a little bit on intimidation, which may work, may not work, depends on who you're going up against. You know what I mean? But it kind of leans into that a little bit, and I think that's almost one of the reasons why I put the Perseus in the Polaris in phase 1, not only to act as that forward reconnaissance, but you know, I originally thought of a lot of different ways. I thought of, well, maybe phase 1 just has heralds in it, right? And that way I save crew count from this. But it was key. You know what's funny is, let's break down this phase plan I have here. One thing is that is both an advantage and a liability, is that a lot of this whole attack plan relies on phase 1 going successfully. So meaning, not only does the Nautilus play a critical role in slowing the fleet down, and slowing the fleet down so that you can even EMP it or QED it, right? I mean, you have to slow it down to start. And then the Polaris, once they are slowed down, because remember, torpedoes are slow, and torpedoes are going to be able to be shot down by other ships. So, and that's why the Nautilus has to slow them down first, so that the Polaris's torpedoes has a chance in hell of hitting anything. So yeah, there's a couple places though where there's a weakness. Another weakness would be phase 4. my hull D, if something happens with this ship, I'm shit up a creek.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't pull all the cargo out. It's a mission failure. So this ship really has to be protected by that Perseus and that Polaris. I mean, it has to be the number one things they do is protect that hull D, because if that hull D is damaged, we get a serious problem.
It's bad day in Baghdad.
And actually, you know what I would probably do?
Yeah.
I would probably go back to this hull D, and I would probably throw that extra person
as an
back
engineer.
in here,
Smart.
as an engineer.
Yeah.
As an engineer, because they are going to have to keep that ship running and in tip top shape the entire time.
Yeah. I think that pulling that Polaris and that Nautilus at the beginning, that's really the kind of almost nail in the coffin, right? Because it's pulling the heavy hitters, my Ion and my Inferno, off of protection. Now, they're not great at maneuvering, but when a Kraken shows up, you know, we'll say 10 minutes later, and I'm going, hey, I need my Ares is back, Ares Squadron. I need you back. And like two guys are going, look, there's two of us left.
Yeah.
I'm going, well, there's a Kraken, boys. And then another one shows up. My pilot craps his pants, and everybody just kind of sits down in a corner somewhere and you know, sucks their thumb.
This phase one grouping here, this phase one grouping presented a little bit of a head scratcher for me, because it is actually not a great ship pairing. Now I'm using these ships great together for what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
But the thing that kind of sucks about this is it has been well stated by CAG that the Polaris is a very fast ship.
Yeah.
And then the Nautilus is slower in hell, because the Nautilus is heavy armored. So these ships are very mismatched in terms of speed. So the Polaris is going to be a little bit limited in speed. It's going to have to fly with the Nautilus for this first phase. Now, once phase 2 begins, they can break away. The Polaris can act as primary defender, but the Polaris is going to be losing one of its net benefits, which is speed, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone should remember the Polaris is it's like lightly armored.
Yep.
I mean, they may have revised that at this point, but it's supposed to be a lightly armored ship, because it's supposed to be fast. So, something interesting to keep in mind, though.
Another thing you'd be able to do is, I think you would safely be able to potentially pull. You got your Apollo, you need that. I think maybe if you pull
Starlet,
one of your Starlet, I think if you pull one of your SRVs. And put in that's 2 people. So put in 2 vultures. You'd also be able to pull salvage and get even more cargo.
Right.
So you'd be able to fill up pretty good. I think that my fleet is, there comes a point where my fleet tries to find that Mantis and take it out and run.
Yeah.
I don't think it's beating this fleet.
That would be key for your fleet, I think, is quickly getting a handle on which ships are the critical ships.
Yep.
Right. And that would be key. And one of the quickest things, I think, I know someone said focus attention on that Legionnaire.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't focus attention on that Legionnaire, only because while the boarding party is great to get on board a Kraken, fight their way through, get down to the cargo bay, which one good thing about that is they wouldn't have to go up through the busy part of the control tower. They really just need to go down to the warehouse part of the ship. But regardless, they still have to go in battle, still have to open the elevator, still have to get cargo out. The better solution is to use the Polaris to destroy one of those Krakens, crack it open, and scoop up whatever SCUs you can. Now, of course, the counter to that is you now have free floating SCU crates, and that's going to take a while to scoop up. So this fleet also needs to rely on staying power, and that kind of goes to one other aspect, which is the Kraken having 2 Krakens, but both of them present repair, rearm, refuel capabilities, which is exactly why the Kraken is here and not Liberators.
Yeah. So Zeus says that they don't see a scout ship in the plan. I got to be honest. I think the Nautilus is the scout ship on this.
The Polaris and the Nautilus. Yeah, they kind of are. They
because
really
once I stumble on and trip one of those mines, he can then have, his people off center a little bit and just focused on jumping to their friends. And so once it hits, that Polaris and Nautilus can pinpoint, people jump in on those and then start the attack. Phase 1 jumps in, and then maybe 5 minutes later, phase 2 jumps in, and then 5 minutes later, phase 3.
And I'll jump in and answer Ostentatious' point here. He says in Twitch, he says, Polaris Capital Radar cannot see fine detail. You need a small scout ship. If that's the case, that's still okay, because remember, in phase 1, we don't need to exactly know what is in the fleet. We just need to know the general location of the fleet.
Yep.
Why do we need to know the general location of the fleet and their heading? Is because we just need to create a minefield, and we're going to create a wide one, because we don't want it to be a narrow minefield, because the last thing we want to do is like send 4 of our mines over a single seat fighter. That'd be a waste of mines.
Exactly.
We want to have a wide net so that they'll mostly be attracted to bigger ships.
Yep.
And remember, I've stated this multiple times about the Nautilus. I don't think it's mines. I don't think destroying things is going to be the key to the Nautilus. I think it's essentially setting up tripwire warning nets with its mines. And now, looking at your fleet, looking at my fleet, I'm really unsure of who would come out on top. They're really interesting balanced. What I will say, though, is that each one of our fleets, for one of them to win, either yours or mine, I can definitely tell you there'd be certain critical things that would have to happen in favor of that fleet for them to pull it off.
Everything would have to fall in line for it.
Yeah, and I think one of the big reasons for that, and this is why I do think, Fleetbuilders has something special to it. It goes back to those parameters. We put that parameter in that that the pirate fleet has to be able to pull off 75% of the cargo, so 15,000 SCU. And that's what makes this difficult.
Yeah.
If the idea was that I just need to pull 5,000 SCU or 8,000 SCU, the Polaris could go on a rampage, just start destroying everything it can, except for the whole D, and pull off what we need and leave.
Yep.
But because of the high pull count on the SCU, because Ender separated them off into separate ships, which is very smart, I think that it presents a challenge. It presents a real challenge.
Because you need that whole D whole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You need the whole D. And here's the thing. That whole D can't be accidentally destroyed.
Nope.
It can't have any of that happen to it. And in some ways, my fleet would need to almost protect your whole D to a point where it's very specifically targeting engine areas or what have you in order to stop it. You know what I mean?
And
now, VMXEO mentioned something here I just want to point out. I don't know if this is a thing yet, but I do know it was talked about at one point, or someone had mentioned it's a maybe that the Nautilus could eventually get like EMP mines. But imagine if that, now we're not going to include that here because I don't think that's an official listing for the current mines for the Nautilus. But if that were to happen, that's a force multiplier on this. It does the same job. But
it's a problem for me.
But I actually think the Nautilus will eventually have mines that don't attack an enemy at all. They literally just let you know. They just extend your radar and scanning coverage. Yeah. Imagine that.
And this
is why I love the Nautilus so much. And some people will go, mines are going to be stupid. I'm like, you're thinking way too narrow. This ship could do all kinds of interesting stuff.
On Fleetbuilders alone, Grim has shown me 5 different ways in 3 episodes that we can use Nautilus mines as an early warning detection system, as a, hey, this is it's a net to cast. It's insane.
It's one of the few ships I bought with cash money. I mean, I literally got in touch with Starlight. I said, I need one, because to me, it's going to be a critical ship for all types of operations. But no, I mean this in all honesty.
I'm going to take us back to our cams, Grim.
Yep. Definitely not trying to, let me know if that went over when I got my green on.
Yep.
Okay. But I was just going to say that I don't mean to like cheap out, but I really, feel like it's hard to call a clear winner in this battle.
It is, because all it takes is one of my guys to take out that Mantis and my whole D to get away. Nothing else needs to get
Right.
away. The hull is the only thing that would need to get away, and it's all it takes. So it's iffy on this one. Your fleet is really well built, but I got a good defense.
That's actually why, Ender, the more I think about it, my boarding party would be better suited to hit your hull D.
Yeah.
Because my boarding party has 8, your hull D has 7 protectors. They'd be better to hit the hull D, clear it and take it over so it can't get away.
Yep.
Now, again, what that does is it forces my hand, though. It forces my hand in that I have to destroy your Kraken. And I think we need to remember the Kraken is one of the biggest capital ships, and it hasn't been, while it's been confirmed early on that the Kraken will carry industrial components.
Yeah.
There's been some discussion later on by John Crew, not specifically in regards to the Kraken, but I believe he's mentioned that, well, you'll be able to put whatever components of the appropriate size in any ship.
Yeah.
If that ends up being true, a Kraken could have a serious.
You got a serious problem.
You could have a hard time destroying it. Is where I'm going.
You got a serious problem with the Kraken if you can throw military parts on.
Saying that, saying that you need to destroy a Kraken, that sounds very easy. It's not. And you need to remember the Kraken has a dual size 8 turret.
Yeah.
It has 4 size 6s. It has another. Ken, this is not an easy target.
No,
it's not an easy target at all.
This is a target that you go ready to face.
Yeah. I mean, people who know me and hear how I speak about the Kraken specifically know this. I think the Kraken is in some ways a better combat ship than the Idris, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of turrets the Kraken has and their coverage. The turrets have amazing coverage. Now it has a weak spot on its bottom, but on top, you better watch out. You can't be in any of that 180-degree sphere on top or you're in trouble.
Right.
And again, we have Krakens in both of our fleets. There's a lot of balance.
There's a lot of good balance. I thought about going 2 Krakens, but I wanted the BMM because I wanted to have the 2 signatures. I don't know why. Something told me have 3 different signatures for your cargo carrying. And that point defense system is kind of nice. The BMM can kind of go out ahead, and the point defense helps a little bit. But
Starlet brings something up over on Twitch. Starlet says, "Are turrets actually effective against small fighters?" I assume she's talking about the Kraken's turrets being big capital turrets. I think that is a great point to bring up. Now, the thing is, the Kraken does have 2 or 4 dual size 4s and then like 2 or 4 dual size 6s. So it's got smaller turrets that can play that kind of hammerhead role. That's always going to be a concern, though. With that, I do think that one of the issues with my fleet is I'm putting a lot of the weight on the shoulders of some single seat light fighters. Buccaneer, Arrow. Now I do have the 2 Ares Infernos, but remember, my Ares aren't anti-fighter.
Right.
Much like the Mantis, much like the Nautilus and the Polaris, which have the ability to target the engine cores of some of these ships and bring them to a halt. That's the job of my Ares too. It's supposed to bring ships to a halt.
That's its job.
So on that side of things, I'm really kind of light on fighters.
Yeah.
And I'm really putting a lot of weight on my single seat light fighters, and I'm putting a lot of weight on the intimidation factor of my Polaris.
Right. And that's once you get focused up, right, that second group jumps in, I'm definitely having somebody jump on that Hurricane on the finding the Manus, but I don't think it's going to be easy to find right away. So it's a matter of, honestly, everything going right for both or one or both of the parties. Because
here's
one wrong move.
Here's something, 2 other points I want to bring up. One about the Nautilus, one about the Mantis. And some of these are some unknowns. The first one's unknown. One of the things they've specifically stated about the Nautilus's mines and mine gameplay in general is that mines, you will have the ability to put how they target. So they'll actually be able to set that they will only target people, that are
Ships
non-friendly to you,
Yeah.
or people not in your party,
Yeah.
right? So one of the cool things about that, again, another reason why I love the Nautilus, is that it would allow my fleet, as long as we're all partied together, to operate safely within
Yep.
a minefield, which is kind of nice. The two, and remember, the Nautilus can carry 24 mines, but they don't all have to be the Tephra homing mine.
Yep.
You could have half that, and you could have half be dual size 2 sentries.
Yep.
Now, while those don't sound threatening, and I agree they're probably not against most of Ender's fleet, what they do become is a pain in the ass harasser that it's going to be hard to determine, like, is this a sentry? What is
Yeah.
firing at me? Right?
What the
It's gonna
fuck is
distract.
firing at me with these size twos? It's not going to
Yeah.
hurt my larger portions of the
It won't.
fleet.
It's not going to do shit to them.
But my F7s are going to get harried by that. And they're already getting attacked by 2 Krakens, by a
Right.
Polaris.
Now,
so yeah, it would be rough for them for sure.
yeah. Now, here's another thing that I was a little bit concerned with on my ship, and we'll kind of wrap it up here because I know Andrew's got to work tomorrow. That I'm placing a lot of responsibility on these 4 SRVs, and that's why I went with 4.
Yeah.
Because I needed the ability if 1 or 2 of those gets taken out, because
to replace them.
Because think about this, I have to unload 15,000 SCU of cargo.
It's a lot.
The SRVs aren't my only ships with capability of doing this.
Yeah.
My Caterpillar has tractor capability as well.
Yeah.
And so that's key. It's also possible that my Nautilus, again, I'm eating into the mines that I can carry, but the Nautilus can carry can carry drones. It can deploy drones just like it deploys mine. I could deploy drones to also be gathering SCU cargo crates, but we're talking about a lot of what ifs. But I think it was really interesting seeing these two different perspectives on stuff. These type of episodes are really interesting to me.
I love doing these type of episodes. Here, let me fix me so I'm not covering my E and nobody thinks I'm Bender. L Bender. All right, I'm done.
L Bender.
I really enjoy putting these together and doing these, like coming through and having to think these out. You really have to take a time to kind of consider what the other fleet might do. And hope that you're getting in on it. The one thing I'm surprised I didn't see E-Warfare from yours, but it makes sense not to have the E-Warfare with the way you built it up. That E-Warfare is not needed. You're in there for the attack and the steal.
And it was something I thought of. So it's interesting you brought that up, and that's why I kept saying that I'm relying on intimidation.
Yeah.
That's, in a way, that's my own version of E-Warfare. I'm trying to use the Polaris's weight, so to speak, to be a real threat.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
That's what I was hoping those Sentinels would be able to do, is to kind of assist in that E-Warfare. Yeah. Make things a little muddled and difficult. I've got my radar guys out there as well, hoping that they're able to pick up those radar and give a heads up on. Real quick, Griff, what's going on, buddy? It's nice to see you back. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well today.
We had a great turnout tonight, by the way.
Really great turnout. Hope everybody's enjoying the show as much as
20 on average on YouTube, and had a raid and stuff. So a good bit of people on Twitch. We appreciate everyone hanging out.
I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as we enjoy. I speak for myself. I think Grim does too. Putting these together and kind of bringing these out. You can see the work
I put in. I was giving some real thought. You know?
It was beautiful. It was good. So yeah, guys, that's Fleetbuilders episode 3, Pirates versus Pilfered, and I believe Grim and I on pretty much par with each other. We always are able to kind of think like each other a little bit, and one wrong move is what it takes, and that's not surprising, I guess.
And look, I think me and Ender have known each other long enough that I think we could very quickly say when we think one person has a clear advantage, like there's no question asked, your fleet would take it. Would you agree with me?
Oh,
kind of shake hands digitally here. We sort of feel like this is a toss-up.
It's a toss-up.
It's gonna all come down to critical moments and how they
Yeah.
go for either fleet.
It has to go perfectly right for one or the other fleet, or it's just not going well for that fleet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My guys have to make the right decisions at the right time. Your Manus needs to stay in the fight and be protected. Yeah, it's good. A link to, oh yeah, of course. So guys, you are listening to and looking at me, Ender, and my buddy Grim, the genius behind Star Jump Fleet Viewer, along with VMXEO and Starlet. I'm the hype man. It's what I do best. It's the only thing I added to this iteration.
Star Jump is definitely a collective.
Good collective. And, Grim and Starlet and VMXEO did an amazing job in the art. So everything that you saw here, that was all them. Grim also the genius behind the cinematics.
I appreciate
which you can find here.
This is something fun to do too with you and your friends, your org mates. Use Fleet Viewer for it. It's fun to have these kind of exercises, even just amongst yourself. You know,
show us what you would build for a pirate or Pilfered fleet or both, and also don't be afraid to throw ideas at us. I'm happy to take ideas. Still, Mary, I don't know if Drake's here or not, but Drake can attest. Our second episode was his idea. And we ran with it, and it was a pretty good thought exercise.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you for hanging out. Yeah. I am going to raid somebody. Who am I raiding? Let me look. Let me see. Who's online. Hopping on online. We got Hasanza. I don't know if you guys know Hasanza, but good guy. I haven't seen him in a while, actually.
Yeah.
Marcus.
Sunday's always a weird night for streamers. A lot of the usual groups aren't on except for Soul Citizens, who rated us. Thank you everyone for Soul Citizens for hanging out. I would say that Soul Citizens is one of our closest kind of.
I agree with that.
Community allies out there. We really do a lot for each other, and it's always good.
We have online. We have. Let's see. I'm thinking either Hasanza or online. They've got a low viewer count, and I'd love to give them some love.
Give them some love.
Let's do Hasanza. I haven't seen him in a while. Let's see. You know what? Hasanza is just coming back from a lot of stuff, so let's give him some love.
Sounds good.
Congratulate him on 104 days, by the way.
There you go. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for hanging out. Go over to our YouTube here. Grim's Discord. Grim's Twitch here. Our Discord here.
Follow us on Twitter. We have a lot of postings and news on there, and especially any new project we post on there.
My Twitter. I have your Twitter up. I think I do. If not, you can find
StarJump.org on Twitter.
StarJump.org on Twitter. I don't remember what mine is. Don't worry about
one word. Just look for that on Twitter, and you'll find us. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, everyone. We really appreciate it.
See if that works.
Oh, and so let's go ahead and just say. We should be back next Sunday with Star Jump Station, and then after that will be another Fleetbuilders. We're getting back to regular content on Star Jump, so
good.
Lots to look forward to.
All right, so we're gonna raid Hasanza. Congratulate him again on 104 days. All right, Hasanza. Here we go.
Cool.
All right, so give me just a few minutes here. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody in my normal way. In April, we will be doing the beginnings of St. Jude Play Live. Don't forget, this week we weren't able to do it. Pretty soon we're going to start doing giveaways for posters, Star Jump posters. Please go follow Grim if you don't already. Yeah. Be kind to a random stranger at some point during this week. Your kindness doesn't go unnoticed by people, I promise. Enjoy Hasanza. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night.